Good evening. Welcome back to Maths in an Empty Classroom with me, Mr. Southern. This is part 2 of the lesson on solving exponential equations, and what we're looking at here is an example where we're given an equation with exponential with e in it, but we're asked to give the solution in terms of a specific l. So here I have solve the equation 2e to the x plus 3 all over 7 equals 3, giving your answer in terms of ln 3. So what I'll do is I'll work through this and I'll talk about how to do this at the stage where it becomes relevant. Now you'll remember from the previous lesson that when we've got an equation that looks like this, we have to isolate e, we have to get e on its own before we can learn both sides of the equation, learn being the inverse operation we're going to use. So the first thing I'm going to do to get e to the x on its own is I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by 7. Which gives me 2e to the x plus 3 equals 21. I'm then going to subtract the 3 from both sides, giving me 2e to the x equals 18. And divide by 2 to give me e to the x equals 9. And now I can learn. Inverse operation of e is to learn, which means that x equals ln 9. However, I don't want ln 9, I want it in terms of ln 3. So what I now have to do is I have to think about my rules of logarithms, and this one is the powers rule of logarithms. And what that rule is if you have log to the base a of x to the power of n, you can write that as n log base a to the power of x. The n, the power, can come down and become the multiply the coefficient of that log. How does that work here? Well, let's think, can we write 9 as base 3? Yes, we can. What we can do is we can write that x equals ln of 3 squared, because 9 is 3 squared. Now in the same way as here, this n, this power, could come down to the front. I can put this 2 down to the front of this ln, and it gives me x equals 2 ln 3. So that's what it's meaning when it's asking you to give your answer in terms of a specific ln. If you remember in the previous lesson I talked about exact values and it being similar to when you use surds. It's a bit like when you're asked to simplify surds, so for example giving it in terms of root 2. This is a very similar principle. But it's using this powers rule of logarithms to go from ln 9 to 2 ln 3. In part 3, we'll do one more like this, and then that'll be job done. I'll see you then.